Hello friends! Okay, so as you will probably know by the title of this video and the length of this video, this is going to be me reading the Goodreads Choice Awards fantasy nominees for the year of 2024. It's currently the 12th of November and I was fully not expecting the nominees to be out today. Luckily they are actually, because I do have the day off of work, so I can actually react to them and, you know, all of that. But I'm nervous. I wasn't prepared. I hadn't prepared myself for them to be out today, and I'm kind of annoyed because I had finished my current read last night, and because I wasn't expecting the nominees to be out today, I picked a new book to read, started reading it, but there is a potential that this book could be one of the nominees. I haven't looked at the nominees yet. We're going to react together at the very start of this, what I'm sure will be a long video. The book that I started reading is To Cage a God by Elizabeth May, and there is a chance that this could be nominated actually, because it is a fantasy book and it was published in February of this year, so there is a chance that this could be one of the nominees, and hopefully it is, because then, well, I'm only 20 pages in, but I'll already be ahead of myself. Do you know what I mean? So my plan for this video is to, first of all, react to the top 20 nominees. Then I'm going to see how many I've read, and then however many I haven't read, I'm going to try and work out what I think is going to be in the top 10 and then start reading those, and then by the time the top 10 comes out, hopefully I'll have read some of those, and then I'll be able to finish off whatever's in the top 10. Because say for example I haven't read any of the nominees, which I don't think will happen because I have read quite a few of new releases from this year so far. Say I haven't read any of the top 20. I obviously am not going to get to read 20 books by the 24th of November, which is when the opening round closes. So I'll have to narrow it down in some way. So, okay. First of all, let's look at my predictions. So I did do a predictions video for the Goodreads Choice Awards for the fantasy category. So these were my predictions for the top 20. Now, I know that quite a few of these are going to be in different categories, like the Crimson Moth, for example, I think is going to be in YA fantasy rather than the adult fantasy category. And there are a couple that, if they have done a romantasy category once again this year, like they did last year, then there's a couple from my predictions I think are going to be romantasy rather than fantasy. We'll see. Okay, let me get the screen recording started and then we can react together. I'm scared, guys. This is going to be my first year reading the Goodreads Choice Awards nominees. I'm nervous for it. I am nervous. So let's see. Let's look at what the nominees are going to be. Taking forever to load. Okay. Oh, there is a romantasy category. Okay, that's interesting. I can see already, just from these thumbnails, I can see what's in what. I'm glad I haven't gone for a romantasy, because I can see there that one of the Zodiac Academy books is in romantasy, and I am not reading however many Zodiac Academy books there are just to read that. So let's get into the fantasy one. I'm nervous. I am nervous. Oh, okay. Oh, okay, interesting. Oh, I have read quite a few of these actually. Oh, this is so intriguing. Okay, quite a few of my predictions were right. Okay, let's go back to the top. So The Warm Hands of Ghosts, I predicted that and I have read that. So that is 1 out of 20 so far. Emily Wild's Map of the Otherlands, I don't know why I'm saying I haven't read that when I have. I have read that and I'm pretty sure I predicted that. Somewhere Beyond the Sea I have read and I predicted that. The Foxwife, I have not read that one and I haven't heard of it. I feel like I've seen it in the shop at work, but I haven't heard of it, so I'm no idea what it's about. So far 3 out of 20. The Night Ends with Fire, I did not predict that. I thought that was YA, but no, it must be adult. I can't remember. I have got the Fairy Loot edition of it over, you can see it right, where am I can't even tell where I'm pointing. You can see it right in the corner over there. I have got the Fairy Loot edition of that, so I do own that, luckily. When Among Crows, I did not want to be picked because I don't want to read Veronica Roth, but I did predict that one. The Tainted Cup I predicted, and since making my predictions video, I'm actually quite excited to read that one, so hopefully that'll be good. A Song to Drown Rivers, I should have thought of that one. I have got a proof copy of that, but I haven't read it yet. So far we're not doing great. I've read 3 out of the 20 so far. Oh, The Bright Sword by Lev Grossman. I'm hoping that that's a standalone or the first in a series because I have absolutely no idea. I did not predict that one. That's only got 7,000 ratings, so A Sorceress Comes to Call. I am so happy that that has been picked because I love T. Kingfisher now. I read 2 of her books in October and absolutely adored them. Nettle and Bone was a 5-star read for me and The Hollow Places was 4.5 stars. So I'm very excited to read A Sorceress Comes to Call. The Familiar, I predicted that one. Very happy with that one. The Lost Story, I am so happy has been nominated. That is an amazing book. I gave that 5 stars. It's kind of like Adult Chronicles of Narnia and it was just amazing. So I actually don't know whether I would vote for that one maybe as my winner. Who knows? But so far that means I've read 5 out of 20. So not great, but Voyage of the Damned by Frances White I did not predict, but I have got a physical copy of that. The Book of Doors I predicted and I'm excited for that one. That does look good. That kind of was giving me 10,000 Doors of January vibes, so hopefully I'll like that. This one I have never heard of. The Dead Cattail Assassins. It's only got 3,000 ratings. What even is this? The Dead Cattail Assassins. What is this book? It's only got 1,000 reviews. Why has that been nominated? That's so confusing. Okay, I don't think that that will be in the top 10 because it's not got that many ratings or reviews. I feel like I have heard of the author, but I don't know why. What else has the author written? Can you see what the author has written? Oh, A Master of Jinn? I feel like I've heard that, but I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sold with that one, but it's only 200 pages, so if that is nominated for the top 10, then it's okay. An Academy for Liars, I'm very excited to read that one, so I'm quite happy that that's been nominated. I didn't predict that at all, but I probably should have done. I'm excited to read that one. Empire of the Damned, I did predict, and I am not sure how I feel about that because I would have to read Empire of the Vampire, which is a big, heavy, grimdark fantasy, and I didn't really have any interest in reading it because I feel like I saw a lot of people who love J. Kristoff anyway not really enjoying Empire of the Vampire, and I haven't read any J. Kristoff, so I've got absolutely no context or reference for how much I might like his books. But I guess I feel like that could go into the top 10, so I guess we're probably going to be reading 2 books for one. A Sweet Sting of Salt I have never heard of. What is A Sweet Sting of Salt? I have never heard of this in my life. It is queer, so that's intriguing. I've literally never heard of this book, and it's only got 1,000 reviews actually, so I doubt that's going to go into the top 10 either. But The Blackbird Oracle I did predict, and I was quite nervous for this one because I haven't read the 4th book in the All Souls series. So this is the series from A Discovery of Witches, or that started with A Discovery of Witches, and I haven't read the 4th book, which is Time's Convert. I'm looking at it right now, it's staring me in the face, and I didn't want The Blackbird Oracle to be predicted, or to be nominated rather, because it's only out in hardback and I own the rest of the series in paperback, so I didn't want to buy the hardback, but I might just have to see how much it is on Kindle maybe, or something, because I don't really want to buy the hardback of it when I have the whole rest of the series in paperback. But I have been told that I don't need to read Time's Convert first. I can just go into The Blackbird Oracle because the Time's Convert is more of a spin-off, but we'll kind of see what time frame I'm getting into. And then we've got 5 Broken Blades by May Corland, and I did predict that one, so not bad. So out of the 20 I've read 4, 5 out of the 20 I've read 5. That's not good. I thought I was going to have read more than that. I thought I was going to have read closer to half, so that's not great. But out of the 20 that I predicted, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I predicted 11 right, so I got over half of my predictions right. So that's not bad, actually, to be fair. So out of this first opening round, I'm going to vote for The Lost Story as my winner because I love that. And I didn't think that was going to get nominated, but that is an amazing book. So I want that to win because I want more people to read that. So I think out of these top 20, what I'm going to read before the top 10 are announced, what I'm going to read is A Sorceress Comes to Call by T. Kingfisher, The Tainted Cup, I feel like that could definitely go into the top 10. An Academy for Liars, I feel like could go into the top 10, and The Night Ends with Fire. Basically, I'm going to try and read all the ones that I've heard of before the top 10 are announced, and then we'll go from there. Because I haven't heard of The Dead Cattail Assassins or A Sweet Sting of Salt, I'm not going to read those ones. I'm going to leave The Foxwife until the top 10 is announced because I don't think that will be in the top 10 because I haven't seen many people reading it. So I don't think that that's going to get voted for very much. Lev Grossman could get into the top 10, but I'm going to leave that one as late as possible if I can. And then Empire of the Vampire and Empire of the Damned. I don't know what to do with those. I'll come to a decision closer to the time. I know that they're just such big books, so if I'm going to read the first one, I really need to read it. But I don't really want to read them. I don't know if it will go into the top 10 or not. I genuinely really don't know if it will go into the top 10 or not because I didn't see that many people loving Empire of the Vampire. Did Empire of the Vampire win its category actually? Let's see if that won or how close it came to winning if it didn't win. Because if it didn't win or came like 19th, I know it was nominated, I'm pretty sure. Maybe it wasn't even nominated. Wait, this came out in 2021. Let's look at the 2021 awards. Did this not get nominated? I could have sworn it did. So Empire of the Vampire was not even nominated? How interesting. I could have sworn it would have been nominated. So if that wasn't even nominated in the year that it came out, but then why would Empire of the Damned not be in horror? It's not in science fiction, is it? I don't think. Let's just check horror in case it's in horror. No. Okay, interesting. So Empire of the Vampire was not even nominated. So would Empire of the Damned even win? Even if it has been nominated? I don't know if it would even win. It's only got 2,000 reviews. Right, I'm going to leave the J. Kristoffs, the Empire of the Vampire and Empire of the Damned until this top 10 has been announced. Because even though I might have to then rush to read them, if Empire of the Damned is in the top 10, it's only got 2,000 reviews. I know it's got 15,000 ratings and that is a pretty high average rating, but with only 2,000 reviews, would that many people be voting for it? I feel like more people are going to vote for whatever else was what else was nominated. I feel like more people are going to vote for like Leigh Bardugo or TJ Klune. That's what I feel like more people are going to vote for. So, okay, well, we'll see. We'll see, guys. But yeah, those are the nominees. I'm going to have to read To Cage a God today, which is fine because I have the whole day off work and I don't really have any plans, so I can probably just read the whole thing in one day. It's 400 pages though, so maybe it'll be tomorrow. But I'm going to try and read this one as quickly as possible. And then, what do I own? Don't know. Then I'll make a decision about what I'm going to read next. I'll let you know when I've started my first read of this video officially. Okay, so it is now the 14th of November and I am going to be starting off reading this challenge with The Tainted Cup by Robert Jackson Bennett. But before I get into that, I'm going to talk to you about the calculations that I've done for this challenge, right? Okay, so bear with me. Okay, so I have done some calculations and the odds are both in my favour and not in my favour at the same time. So the reason that they're in my favour is that out of the 5 books that I've read out of the 20 nominees, I think that all 5 of them are going to be in the top 10. So that is The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo, The Lost Story by Meg Sheffer, The Warm Hands of Ghosts by Catherine Arden, Emily Wilde's Map of the Otherlands by Heather Fawcett, and Somewhere Beyond the Sea by TJ Klune. I think all of those are going to end up in the top 10, hopefully. And the reason that I think this is I've looked at all of the number of ratings that all of the nominees have gotten and their average rating on Goodreads as well, and all of the ones that I've read have like the highest number of ratings and the highest average ratings. So for example, The Familiar has 76,000 ratings and a 3.80 average rating. So I think that's definitely going to get to the top 10. Also it helps obviously that Leigh Bardugo is such a familiar name. I think people who haven't read The Familiar will still vote for her. Then The Warm Hands of Ghosts has 18,000 ratings and a 4.01 average rating, so I think that has a pretty good chance of getting to the top 10. Somewhere Beyond the Sea has 43,000 ratings and a 4.30 average rating, so that's definitely going to get to the top 10. Emily Wilde's Map of the Otherlands, 52,000 ratings and a 4.31 average rating, so definitely going to get to the top 10. And The Lost Story has 20,000 ratings and a 3.85 average rating, so I'm really hopeful that will get to the top 10. The Lost Story is my pick for the winner so far anyway, out of the 5 that I've read. So I think all of those have a pretty good chance of getting to the top 10, but the reason the odds are not in my favour is because the other ones that I think will get to the top 10 are The Book of Doors, which has 36,000 ratings and a 4.04 average rating. I don't own this, which means I'm going to need to buy it. I was kind of hoping that I wouldn't have to buy anything other than the T. Kingfisher book, but I'm probably gonna have to buy The Book of Doors because with 36,000 ratings I feel like that is gonna get to the top 10. Then The Tainted Cup has 23,000 ratings and a 4.31 average rating, so I think that's gonna get to the top 10 as well. Five Broken Blades has 21,000 ratings and a 3.83 average rating, so not as high, but I still feel like it could. And then A Sorceress Comes to Call, I'm anxious to say it might get to the top 10, I don't know if it will, but it has 16,000 ratings and a 4.15 average rating, which is a pretty high average rating, and T. Kingfisher is obviously a name that more people are starting to recognise, so I'm obviously going to be reading that. I'm going to buy it and read it at some point before the top 10 are announced, but I hope that it does get to the top 10. And then The Blackbird Oracle by Deborah Harkness has 20,000 ratings and a 4.13 average rating, so I do think that's going to get to the top 10 as well. So that's why the odds are not in my favour, because I'm going to have to buy most of the books when I have, you know, I do own quite a few of the nominees in the top 20, but I'm not sure they're all going to get through. The ones that I own, I've got An Academy for Liars by Alexis Henderson. This is the really pretty proof copy that I was sent and didn't get around to reading. That one has 5,000 ratings and a 3.60 average rating, so I'm not hopeful that that's going to get through. I'm still going to try and read it just in case, because the booktube channel that I took inspiration for this challenge from, Meg with Books, I was watching her 2022 video where she read those nominees, and she did all these calculations as well, and she read the ones that she thought were going to be in the top 10, and then it turned out that the ones that she thought were going to be in the top 10, a lot of them didn't actually make it to the top 10 despite having the highest ratings and the highest average ratings. So I still need to try and read, I think, as many of the top 20 as I can before the top 10 are announced, just in case, you know what I mean? Another one that I own is A Song to Drown Rivers by Anne Liang. This one has 6,000 ratings and a 3.96 average rating, so based on the average rating, possibly, but it doesn't have that many ratings, so I don't know. This is like Anne Liang's first adult fantasy. She's written quite a few YA contemporaries, which maybe gives her more of a chance of being voted for because more people might recognise her name even if they haven't read the book. Then Voyage of the Damned by Frances White. I am obsessed with this edition, it's so shiny. This one has 6,000 ratings and a 3.96 average rating as well. So again, possible, but I don't think as many people are going to vote for this because I don't think as many people have heard of it. And then I also own The Night Ends with Fire by KX Song, which has 6,000 ratings and a 3.81 average rating, so not as hopeful. This edition is so pretty as well. And based on my calculations, the ones that I don't think are going to get through at all are A Sweet Sting of Salt, because it has 3,000 ratings and a 3.86 average rating, so I think that's too little of each, and I had never heard of it before. And then also The Dead Cattail Assassins, which also has 3,000 ratings and a 3.98 average rating. So maybe more potential, but I hadn't heard of this one, so I don't think as many people are going to be voting for that one either. The other ones that I think might get through based on their number of ratings, it doesn't look good for me, basically, because none of these ones I actually want to read. So you've got When Among Crows by Veronica Roth, that has 12,000 ratings, and obviously people are going to recognise the name of Veronica Roth, and I really, really don't want to read that at all. I've heard better things about it, like I feel like people are saying it's better than, what was that other dystopian one that she did, her first adult one? I can't remember that one's called because I didn't read it, but I still don't want to read it because I don't trust Veronica Roth anymore. Empire of the Damned has 15,000 ratings and a 4.46 4.57 average rating, which is really high. But because Empire of the Vampire wasn't nominated in the year that that came out, I'm not sure that this would get through to the top 10. I'm not sure that many people will have read Empire of the Vampire by now, or I feel like I heard less people loving Empire of the Vampire than like was expected. I don't know. I really don't want to read it. I really don't want to read it because they're such big books and it's so heavy and it's going to take time, and I don't want to read both of them. I don't want to have to buy like a paperback and a hardback or whatever. Anyway, and then I also, based on the number of ratings, it's possible that The Foxwife might get through. That has 12,000 ratings and a 4.01 average rating, which is quite high. It's a lot higher than I was expecting it to have, but I haven't really seen anybody reading it that I know anyway, so I don't know whether that will really get voted for. I think I'm only going to have to read 5 books, technically, but I'm going to be trying to read more than 5 just to try and cover myself. I don't know. Who knows? Who knows? Anyway, out of the 5 that I've read, this is my ranking of them so far. The Lost Story is my favourite of them, and I really, really want that to win because I absolutely love it and I want so many people to read it. And I'm really glad it's been nominated because I just hope that that makes more people read it and love it, because it is such a magical, lovely book. Like, I absolutely adored it. And my least favourite, I think, is The Warm Hands of Ghosts. I don't know what my ranking is going to be yet, but I'm pretty sure it's The Warm Hands of Ghosts, which is unfortunate, but I do think that's still going to get through. So we're gonna get into reading as many of the books that I can. I'm gonna try and read the 4 that I showed you, The Tainted Cup, 5 Broken Blades, and I'm also gonna try and buy and read A Sorceress Comes to Call by T. Kingfisher because I love T. Kingfisher. And it will be the 3rd T. Kingfisher book that I've read this year and also within like a month. So I do really want to read that because I'm absolutely obsessed with T. Kingfisher at the minute. And yeah, I will chat with you guys once I've read The Tainted Cup. We'll find out where it goes in my ranking, and we will find out how many books I can read in this challenge. It's going to be interesting, let's say. Hi friends. Okay, so I have now finished The Tainted Cup and it was a 5-star read for me. I absolutely loved it. I was really not expecting to enjoy it as much as I did. I wasn't even wanting to read it at all before I predicted it for the Goodreads Choice Awards, and then I was still a bit reluctant, but I absolutely loved it. So the premise of The Tainted Cup is it's essentially like a Agatha Christie, Sherlock Holmes kind of murder mystery, but in a high fantasy world. So your main character, Din, is what's known as an engraver. So he can engrave literally anything that he sees into his memory, and the way that he then recalls it is through scent. So when he's memorizing something, he will have these little bottles of different scents, so like grass or smoke or whatever, and he will commit the memory to that scent, so that's how he can recall it. He's apprenticing for this woman who is called Anna, and she is an investigator, I believe, and she walks around blindfolded, so that's why she has him to be able to recall crime scenes and stuff. And they come across this crime scene where this important figure of the government has been murdered, and he's been murdered by this tree growth basically erupting out of his body, so quite intense. And they work out who the murderer is of him, but then 10 more people are murdered. And in this world you have these massive seawalls, and these seawalls are keeping out leviathans, and every wet season the leviathans are growing, and it's getting more and more likely that they're going to break down the seawall. And with these 10 people that have been murdered, the seawall has been breached, so they have to do all this investigating, and it was just so good. Like, it was really, really gripping, really fascinating. I'm literally still thinking about it constantly, even though I finished it last night and have moved on to another book. My mind is still on The Tainted Cup, and yeah, I can't believe how much I enjoyed it. The characters felt really fleshed out, the world felt so fleshed out, and the world building was really fantastic for such a high fantasy world. You know, the months are different, the days of the week are different, everything is different, but it was really easy to get to terms with. So I had such a good time, and now I want to read all of Robert Jackson Bennett's backlist as well. And I can really see why this was nominated for a Goodreads Choice Award. Like, I know obviously the Choice Awards are a popularity contest, but I can see why this was nominated. And I think it should be nominated for more awards because this was such a well done fantasy book and definitely a deserved winner. Like, this should win something. It wouldn't be, I guess, still my choice. My choice would still be The Lost Story just because of how that made me feel. But The Tainted Cup, I think, is a deserved winner if it does win. So in terms of my ranking, I think that it fits in at number 3. So you'll see here, I'll pop it here, as to where it fits in. But yeah, I just had such a good time and I really wasn't expecting to have that good a time with it. Like, the murder mystery was also so well done. Like, normally if you have a murder mystery in a fantasy setting, it kind of doesn't take that much prominence or isn't as well thought out as a fantasy setting, or, you know, you kind of don't win either way. But this one had such a good balance of mystery and fantasy, and I was completely gripped by the mystery and I was shocked as well as to what unfolded. It was very intense, and I just hope there's loads of books in this series. I'm pretty sure it's only a duology at the minute, and the second book is coming out soon, maybe in February. But yeah, I had such a good time, so I really want there to be loads more books in this series because I will read them. And I'm so happy that I actually got to read this because I would not have read this if it wasn't for this reading challenge. So yay, first book is a win. That's definitely going to get through to a top 10. Absolutely. So the one I have moved on to next is An Academy for Liars, and I will catch up with you guys once I have finished An Academy for Liars. Hi friends. Okay, so my face looks really shiny because I've just done my skincare. But anyway, I have just finished An Academy for Liars by Alexis Henderson, and I've given this 4 stars. So in terms of the ranking, first of all, this falls pretty low in the ranking. I think I preferred it to The Warm Hands of Ghosts, so it's going to go above that, but it falls pretty low in the ranking, but that's only because I've enjoyed most of the books that I've read, or all of the books I've read. The nominees, I haven't rated a book lower than 4 stars, I don't think. I can't remember what I rated The Warm Hands of Ghosts. It's either 3.5 or 4 stars. I haven't rated a book lower than that. So even though it's low in the ranking, it's not a bad book. So this is peak dark academia. So you're following Lennon, who at the start of the book when you meet her is at her engagement party. And she's 20 years old, she's a college dropout, and she was kind of basically rescued by her fiance, who was a lot older than her, I believe, and she basically became like a housewife. Yeah, so she basically became like a housewife, and then during the engagement party she discovers him cheating on her with like her only friend. So she steals his car, drives off, and she ends up near this phone booth, and the phone starts ringing, and when she answers it, it's like the voice of everyone she's ever loved, like including her dead grandparents, etc. And it's saying to her that she's passed the application process and that she needs to go to this house that's like an 8-hour drive away for an interview to be accepted into Drayton College, and she's got nothing better to do, so she goes on this 8-hour drive, and she ends up being passed through the interview, and she ends up going to this college campus, which is accessed by a mysterious lift. So there's only 2 floors in this house, and the guy tells her to take the lift to the 8th floor, and she goes there, she has an exam and everything, and she is accepted into Drayton College, which specialises in teaching people in the art of persuasion. So it's very dark academia, you know. So this mysterious college, everyone's very morally grey, the classes even are very sus. Like, there's one class where they're basically persuading these lab rats to do different things, so taking memories and putting them back in and trying not to persuade them to forget breathing, that kind of thing. It's very interesting in that sense. I feel like a bit confused by it because I don't feel like I ever fully understand dark academia books. Like, I feel like that's kind of the point of them, is it's very much vibes, you know? It's not always necessarily the plot, but I did enjoy the storyline of this. Oh, and she has this advisor at the college called Dante, who she's attracted to, and he is very mysterious as well. There's like a lot, he seems to have quite a dark past, and yeah, it's very interesting. There's horror elements that slowly sort of trickle into the story, which I really enjoyed. I thought that added a really interesting facet to the plot and was also pretty brutal at times. And yeah, I did enjoy this. I think it was just the ending that made it a 4-star read for me. I just wasn't completely sold on the characters either. I don't love an all morally grey cast, but I did really love Lennon. I really liked her character development throughout this, because at the start she's very unsure of herself and very desperate to prove herself at this college as well, but she really does become more confident in herself as the book goes on. But it was really just the ending that made it a 4-star read for me rather than anything higher, because I don't feel like I was just completely sold on how it ended. The last 50 pages I was a bit confused and I just didn't really feel blown away by it, if that makes sense. But I did like the last chapter, so yeah, it was a 4-star read. It was good, very dark academia, very well written. I'm really intrigued to see what Alexis Henderson has written. No, is it House of Hunger, but I don't know anything else. I'm intrigued to see what comes next as well. But yeah, I do feel like this is going to be one of those like set dark academia recommendations, like when people recommend a dark academia book, you know, they're going to recommend The Secret History, Ninth House, etc. But I do feel like this is definitely going to make its way to be a set recommendation for dark academia books. So really intriguing, and I'm really glad that I read this. I feel like it did deserve to be nominated for a Goodreads Choice Award, and it could have been placed in horror, but I suppose the fantasy element was more significant than the horror. But there are definitely strong horror elements in this. Like, there is some pretty gruesome, brutal scenes in this. So this could definitely have been nominated for horror as well. I think it did deserve to be nominated for a Goodreads Choice Award. I'm not sure it will win. I don't know if it has a strong enough fandom or love behind it. I don't think it's been out for long enough, unfortunately, but I do think this did deserve to be nominated. And of course, with this being by Alexis Henderson, it does mean that the list is more diverse as well, which Goodreads needs to work on. But what I'm going to read next is Voyage of the Damned by Frances White, and I am really intrigued by this. I think I am drawn to picking this up because I'm still on like a book hangover from the Tainted Cup, and this is it's not really similar, but it is a fantasy murder mystery, so similar in that sense. And this is actually the gorgeous Illumicrate edition, which Violet very kindly gave to me, so I'm intrigued by this. I'm just in the mood for another fantasy murder mystery. Really, I want the sequel to the Tainted Cup in my hands right now, but I know that doesn't come out till like February, maybe April. A long time. I want the next one. I was not prepared to love the Tainted Cup as much as I did, guys, but I literally cannot stop thinking about it. So I feel like to, you know, fulfill my need for more of the Tainted Cup vibes, I'm going to go with Voyage of the Damned because it's another fantasy murder mystery. So hopefully I will enjoy this one, and I'll let you know once I've finished it. Hello. Okay, so yesterday I finished Voyage of the Damned. This one is a fantasy murder mystery set on a boat, and it's kind of like a locked room mystery, I guess is what you call it, because no one can leave this boat. So everyone is a suspect, but also everyone is a potential victim. So kind of feels locked roomy. I don't know if that's the right terminology. You're following the main character Ganymedes, or D, who is from the Fish Province. There are 12 provinces in this world. There used to be 13, but the Crab Province, after a war or an uprising like 1,000 years ago, were cut off, and now there is a massive wall dividing the Crab Province from the other 12, and so the crabs have like been left to the wastes of the world or something, like monsters and whatever. And the provinces are arranged like, so the ones that are closest to the wall are like the more lowly ones, and then the ones further up, going all the way up to the Dragon Province, are more noble or higher class. So Ganymedes is from the Fish Province. Each province is run by, they call it a dux in this, which I think is meant to be like a duchy kind of thing, and each one has a dux, and each province also has a blessed. So there are only 12 blesseds in the world, and these blesseds have different powers. Now, the Dragon Blessed will become Emperor or Empress, and they maintain this massive wall that protects the provinces. The other Blesseds have various kind of powers, and no one really knows like what your Blessed is. They kind of keep it a secret. I don't really know why, but they keep it a secret. But like the tiger province, for example, are the shields of the world, so they protect whoever the emperor or empress is. So in this one, the final blessed of the 12 of this generation has just revealed themselves, and she's a 6-year-old girl. So they embark on this voyage to, I can't remember what the point of the voyage is, but I think it's basically to like celebrate the different blesseds, and like each of the 12 days is a feast for different provinces and stuff like that. And so they go on this voyage, and Ganymedes is actually hiding a secret. So he and his dad have been hiding a secret ever since Ganymedes was like 12, pretending that Ganymedes is the blessed of the fish province, when in actuality he hasn't received any kind of power, hasn't, you know, become a blessed at all. And that means that his dad, who has fathered like dozens and dozens of bastard children, the blessed might have passed on to one of them. But because Ganymedes is his only legitimate heir, they're pretending that it has passed on to him. So he is determined on this voyage to make everyone hate him, so that everyone avoids him and he doesn't have to show what his blessing is, anything like that. There's a party going on for the first night, celebrating the dragon province and the girl who's going to become empress one day. And he is determined to make everyone hate him. He gets really, really drunk, insults everybody. And then the heir to the dragon province, the heir to the empire, is murdered. Well, they think that she's committed suicide because she's found hanging from a chandelier, but it's murder. Then slowly, one by one, they all start dying. So it's a very interesting fantasy aspect because it's all set on this ship, so you don't really see much of the world, but you do hear a lot about it. And I felt like the world building was a little bit confusing because you weren't actually witnessing everything that was going on. You were kind of just having to remember all of these different things about all of these 12 provinces. But the murder mystery aspect was really interesting. I really, really liked that. I was quite surprised by what turned out to happen. A couple of bits were a bit predictable, but most of it I was quite shocked by, and I did have a good time. It's written adult, but Ganymedes, and I can't remember how old he's meant to be, but he reads quite young and reads almost like a teenager trying to pretend to be an adult, like saying kind of these outrageous things, thinking that that's what makes you an adult, if that makes sense. And it was a little bit jarring in terms of that. So yeah, but there was a really, really nice sort of found family aspect between Ganymedes and the 6-year-old girl who kind of adopts him as like her father figure during this voyage. I thought that was really, really sweet. And I liked the kind of setting of the boat. I don't feel like many fantasy books are completely set on a boat. I thought that was really interesting to kind of have that kind of small feeling, like that intimate feeling with the boat. Although I would have liked to have seen more of the world in order to grasp the world building a bit better. So yeah, I don't know. I did enjoy it, but it wasn't the best book I've ever read. And in terms of the ranking, I think it's above The Warm Hands of Ghosts for me, maybe. This might change as it goes on and I think about it more, but I do think it is above The Warm Hands of Ghosts for me, but I don't think it's really any higher than that. Yeah, it was okay. It wasn't bad by any means. I'm just not sure it was entirely for me. I think I would have preferred just like, either for the world building to not be quite as intense at times, or for the setting to not be entirely on a boat. I don't feel like both of those things really worked very well, just because I really struggled to remember all of the different provinces and all of the different blessings and all of the different, like, there's a lot that gets kind of thrown at you. So, but not a bad book. So the next one that I have actually started, because I finished Voyage of the Damned at work yesterday and then I needed to start another book. So I started A Song to Drown Rivers by Anne Liang, and I have nearly finished this. So I'm going to go and finish this now, and I'll be back with you in probably like 20 minutes. And I will tell you my thoughts on A Song to Drown Rivers. Or maybe it'll be later on. Depends how much time I've got, because I do have to get ready for work. But we'll see. I will be finishing this one today, and then I need to pick another book, and I don't know what. I did buy A Sorceress Comes to Call, and I'm very excited to read that one. And then I did also get for 99p on Kindle The Foxwife by Yangju? I don't know what the author's name is. So I've got A Sorceress Comes to Call, 5 Broken Blades, The Night Ends with Fire, and The Foxwife to read. So need to pick one. It's probably going to be A Sorceress Comes to Call because I love T. Kingfisher and I'm very, very excited to read that one, but we'll see. I need to see what mood I'm in when I've finished A Song to Drown Rivers. Hi friends. Okay, so this is potentially a very precarious position for the phone. You're resting on my steering wheel. I'm not sure how well you're gonna stay there. But anyway, I have just driven to work and I've got like 10 minutes before I need to start walking there. So I figured I'd tell you about A Song to Drown Rivers. So I finished this book like just after I spoke to you earlier and I did really enjoy it. I think it's also a 4-star. There's a lot of 4 stars in this video, which is a shame that there's not more higher than that. I mean, 4 stars is obviously still a really good rating, but I do think it is a 4 stars. I think that I did enjoy it more than some of the other books. I definitely enjoyed it more than Voyage of the Damned. I don't know if I enjoyed it more than the second Emily Wilde book. So I don't know where it's going to go in the ranking. I'll put the ranking that I decide on later here and you can see what the ranking is when I decide on it. But anyway, so A Song to Drown Rivers is, I don't know if you can technically class it as a fantasy book. This is the trouble I'm having with this book because it's really more historical. There's not really any fantasy elements apart from in the epilogue, so I don't really know why it was nominated for the Fantasy Award. I think it's definitely, you can't really compare it to the other fantasy books because it doesn't really have a magic system or anything like that. Like, it's set in a different world than ours, which I guess is why it's classed as a fantasy, but it's not really a fantasy. It's far more historical fiction. And I think it is a brilliant historical fiction. So it's set in like, I don't even know what kind of times you'd call it. I think that the time period is based on ancient China, maybe. There's like warring lands and there was an invasion of the Yu Kingdom like 15 years prior to the story, and then now the Wu Kingdom is in charge, and the main character is, when she was born, she's like renowned for her beauty, like she has to go out and hide her face because she's so beautiful, and she is kind of chosen by these rebels to infiltrate the Wu Kingdom and seduce the Wu King and basically topple the kingdom from the inside because he'll be so captivated by her beauty. I mean, she's a village girl, so she has to be trained in like how to be royalty, all of that, and she's only trained for like 10 weeks, which I don't think is that long to learn all of the things that she wouldn't know. But anyway, so she's trained in all of that and she goes and infiltrates the palace and yeah, and all of that kind of unfolds. But the person training her, who is the military advisor of the Yu Kingdom, they kind of end up like having feelings for each other, but he's very much like, no, you need to do your mission, like you need to go and seduce this king. So she goes off, she goes to this kingdom and infiltrates the palace and all of that. And then I don't know how I feel about it because something happens, and it's so hard not to spoil what happens in order to be able to talk about my feelings for this book. Something happens in the very end that I was just a bit like, well, what was the whole point of the book? I understand it's probably, I guess, like historically accurate for that kind of thing to happen, but then the epilogue kind of went a bit, that was where the fantasy aspect came in, because kind of went a bit weird because of what happened in the end. And I was just like, why? I don't know how else to explain it. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about this book. The writing is gorgeous, really, really well written. I think that Anne Liang's writing, because she's written YA contemporaries before, and I think that her writing does really lend itself to historical fantasy, and I absolutely would read another adult historical or fantasy book from her in the future. But this isn't really a fantasy book apart from what happens in the end, and I don't know if I like the ending. Like, this book is very short, it's 321 pages. I read it so quickly. I literally started it after I finished Voyage of the Damned yesterday, and then basically read the whole thing in a day apart from the last 40 pages which I read this morning. And I don't know, like, I really like the main character. I really liked the kind of moral dilemma that she goes through, because she's obviously, you know, spending so much time with this enemy king and seducing him, and she does end up kind of, her hatred for him and the kingdom melting a little bit, which I think is really interesting because her younger sister was killed by this enemy kingdom, and so at the start of the book she's absolutely so full of hatred, so determined to do this mission, so determined to topple this kingdom. But then she actually gets to know the king, and she's kind of more stuck in a moral dilemma about it, because he's kind of just like a boy, really. He's not very old. He's like 20, I want to say, compared to, I guess, what she thought he was going to be, which was like in his 40s or 50s. But I don't know how I feel about the ending. I don't think I like the ending, if I'm feeling that conflicted over it, because she went through all of that. She went through this whole thing, being away from her family for years, and, you know, being basically alone for years at a time. No one to talk to about this. She didn't even see any of the other rebels for so long, until whatever happens happens. And I don't know, it just feels a bit like, well, what was the point? If that was going to happen in the end, I don't know. So yeah, I think I did enjoy it more than Voyage of the Damned, because I prefer the main character. I prefer how this one was written. I really, really like the historical elements, but I don't think you can class it as a fantasy, and I did not like the ending. So that's my review of A Song to Drown Rivers. I don't know how to feel about it. I don't see why it was nominated for the fantasy category when it's definitely more historical. I don't know. It's not really a fantasy, but it was good. So it's kind of hard to rank it in terms of the fantasy books that I've read for this challenge, but who knows. So anyway, I have decided that my next read is going to be A Sorceress Comes to Call by T. Kingfisher, and I'm very excited to read that. It's like a Goose Girl retelling, and I love T. Kingfisher because I read 2 of her books in October and absolutely loved them. As I said, one was a 5-star, one was a 4.5 star. So I'm really excited to read another T. Kingfisher book. I really, really like her writing, so hopefully I'll like A Sorceress Comes to Call. Hopefully it'll be a 5-star, because I've only had 1 5-star for, like, that I've read in this video anyway. So hopefully. And it's not that long actually until the top 10 gets announced. The top 10 gets announced the 26th of November, I want to say, and today's the 22nd, so it's not that long. So if I can read A Sorceress Comes to Call like between today and tomorrow, then I can read one more maybe before the 26th, because I'm quite busy on Sunday, so I'm not sure how much reading I'll get done then, but hopefully I'll be able to read quite a bit before the 26th, and then we'll see what's in the top 10. Maybe I'll have read all of the top 10 by then, who knows. We'll see how long this video ends up being. But anyway, yeah, that's my thoughts on A Song to Drown Rivers. Hopefully I like A Sorceress Comes to Call a bit more, and hopefully it's actually a fantasy. A Song to Drown Rivers just wasn't really a fantasy. So I'm gonna go read A Sorceress Comes to Call. Hi friends. Okay, so I have finished A Sorceress Comes to Call by T. Kingfisher, and this was 5 stars. I am squealing about this book. Oh my god, this was so good. So this is my second 5-star book from T. Kingfisher, and honestly, like, she's definitely an auto-buy author for me now, because I've had 2 5 stars and 1 4.5 star, and like, I'll just read anything that she writes at this point. So this one is a retelling of The Goose Girl, which is Hans Christian Andersen, I believe. So it's following Cordelia, who is 14 years old, and at the very start of the book you meet her. She's living with her mother, and you realise that their relationship is pretty toxic, because Cordelia's mother often makes Cordelia obedient. So by doing that, I mean she literally takes control of Cordelia's entire body, what she says, everything apart from her eyes. So she will literally control everything that Cordelia does, and if Cordelia misbehaves, she will be made obedient for days at a time, even weeks at a time. So Cordelia is going through some horrible stuff, and also in the home they're not allowed any closed doors as well. That's a misbehaviour, because Cordelia's mother sees Cordelia as like an extension of herself, so she's like, you have nothing to hide from me, all of that. And the only like alone time that Cordelia gets is either when her mother goes off, sort of, I think it's once every month or something, to her benefactor, so she's technically a mistress, but also when Cordelia goes on rides on the family horse. Falada, I think is the horse's name, and Falada has been there Cordelia's entire life, and she tells him all of her secrets, everything. She wants to run away with him. She loves this horse so much. He's her only friend in the world. Then one day, Cordelia's mother returns from the benefactor and says that they have to leave straight away. So they go to the countryside and come across the squire, and the squire is this wealthy old man who is never married, and he lives with his spinster sister Hester, and Cordelia's mother who is Evangeline, actually, that's her name. She decides that she's going to marry the squire to get the money, and then she will marry Cordelia off to a rich man, and that will be their lives sorted. And then one day over breakfast, the squire is reading from the newspaper and reads that the benefactor has killed most of his family, and Cordelia kind of starts to realise what kind of person her mother is, obviously even more than just making Cordelia obedient. So you have Cordelia's narration in here, but then you also have some narration from the perspective of Hester, the spinster sister, and I just adored both of the narrations, and this is just such a well-built world. I don't know how to explain it. I was immediately immersed into the world. I immediately felt like I'd read 100 books set in this world before, because I just felt so immersed in it straight away. And I think that's the beauty of T. Kingfisher's writing, is that you just feel immediately in the world. You don't have to put in any effort to understand the world building or to understand the magic system or anything like that. She's so clever at just weaving it into the plot line. It's so well done. It's a masterclass in writing fantasy, and this is definitely more fantasy than horror. So I read Nettle and Bone, which is more fantasy than horror, but then I've also read The Hollow Places, which is more horror. This one is definitely one of her more fantasy books, and I really, really like that. It does have some horror elements, there are some scenes that you're just oh, okay, that's not very nice, and there's some elements that you're just, not great, but, not great in sense, they're horror elements, but I really like the fantasy aspect of this, and I don't know that much about the original story of the Goose Girl, so I can't really say how accurate or well done of a retelling it is, but to me this felt like such an original story, so I think T. Kingfisher has done a fantastic job, and I just adore these characters. I would read 10 more books with these characters. I loved Cordelia, I loved Hester, but I also loved the side characters. The side characters really, really shone in this book. You've got Richard, and you've got the Squire, and you've got Imogen, who is one of Hester's friends, and even the lady's maid Alice, I loved her. And you have very conflicted feelings about the horse. Obviously you have this hatred towards Evangeline, the mother, and it's just so good. It is so good. I'm obsessed. I am obsessed with this book. So what a win. I really do think this could be very, very deserving of winning the Goodreads Choice Award, and if this doesn't make it to the top 10, we riot. We riot at dawn. This has to be in the top 10 at the very least. And honestly, I do think this should be in the top 5 as well. So in terms of my ranking, it has changed actually. So since I spoke to you about Voyage of the Damned, I've since written my review on Goodreads, and in writing down my thoughts and kind of sitting with the book for a bit, I realised it's not 4-star, it's a 3.5-star read for me. So it has gone on the bottom of the ranking. It's now below The Warm Hands of Ghosts for me. And then A Song to Drown Rivers, I realised that because I'd obviously spoken to you right after finishing it, I hadn't actually read really that much about what the story was based off of, and I didn't realise that it is based off of an actual person. This character, I think you pronounce it Zishi, but I don't know if that's right. I'm really sorry if it's not. I did try to find a pronunciation. This character is actually based off a real person, so she was one of China's ancient 4 beauties. So the lands that they're in, the Wu Kingdom and the Yu Kingdom, they were actual kingdoms. So this is based off of historical fact. So I didn't actually realise that about The Song to Drown Rivers, so even more so it's not a fantasy, it's just a historical retelling with a slight fantasy element in the epilogue. So in terms of the ranking with that one, I feel that has gone into, I can't remember what place number it is on here, but it's fairly low down because it's not a fantasy, and I don't know why it's been nominated or marketed as a fantasy when it is a historical retelling. Anyway, in terms of A Sorceress Comes to Call, I think that this has beat out The Familiar for me in terms of my favourites. So The Lost Story is still my favourite. The Lost Story is still the story of my heart. So that's still number 1 for me. But I think A Sorceress Comes to Call is number 2. I think it is number 2, guys. And honestly, like, objectively, at the minute, The Tainted Cup or A Sorceress Comes to Call should win. I mean, I obviously want The Lost Story to win. I do think it will be The Tainted Cup or The Familiar. But A Sorceress Comes to Call would absolutely deserve the win if it got it. Fantastic. Like, T. Kingfisher should win an award for this book. It was so good. So, yeah, loving it. So today is the 24th of November and the first round finishes tomorrow at 8 a.m. So then we'll find out the top 10 on the 26th, I think it is. So I'm going to start The Foxwife. I know that this author is quite popular actually since I've been reading about what the author has written, but I've never read anything by this author before, so who knows. But it does have very good reviews, like Sulin Tan has done a quote for it, and so is Alex E. Harrow, and I love them. So yeah, I feel like this could be a very beautiful story, so I'm excited. So I'm hopefully going to read The Foxwife from I don't think I'm going to start it tonight, but from tomorrow, and then maybe finish it on Tuesday, but probably not. But at least I'll be sort of reading it as we're finding out the top 10 and then work out whether it's going to be in the top 10 or not. How crazy would it be if all the books that I've read are in the top 10 and then I don't even have to read anymore? I don't think that's going to happen, because I do think I'm going to have to read at the very least the Book of Doors, so I'm going to need to buy that. And then we pray that Empire of the Damned is not in the top 10. And I do think that the Blackbird Oracle is going to be in the top 10. It's not that I don't want to read the Blackbird Oracle. I know I keep talking about it. I do want to read it. I just haven't read Times Convert, and I don't want to buy the hardcover, but I also don't want to buy it on Kindle and pay for it on Kindle when I know I'm going to buy the paperback when the paperback comes out. You see my dilemma. Anyway, everyone should read A Sorceress Comes to Call, and I'm going to go and read The Foxwife. Okay, so it is officially the 27th of November and I finished The Foxwife. So before I look at what the top 10 are, I'm going to talk about The Foxwife by Yang Shi Chu, I think is how you say the author's name. Again, very historical. A lot of the books that were nominated in the top 20 at least seem to be quite historical, which I think is quite unusual for the fantasy category. So this one is set in Manchuria in 1908, and you have two perspectives. You have Snow's perspective and you have Bao's perspective. So Snow is a fox and Bao is a detective in his 60s. He's widowed and he hears about this woman who was found frozen on the doorstep of a restaurant, and he decides to investigate this death, and he realizes that, or hears that, this woman was seen with a fox before she died. So, or what people suspect to be a fox. Now, in this mythology, the foxes are, I guess, they can turn into humans, but they are, I don't know if they're seen as monsters necessarily, but they can sort of lure humans and sort of lure them to their deaths and that kind of thing. I think I was a bit confused on what the foxes actually kind of do, but they're not seen as a good omen, essentially. But Bao had a childhood friend when he was little who was saved by a fox, so he has this kind of different perspective on them as well, while also hunting for this murderer, and he ends up following Snow from China to Japan, and she is serving as a sort of handmaiden, I guess is the right word, to this rich woman. Bao's perspective is a little bit behind Snow's perspective, so you've kind of got two timelines going on as well. And while I enjoyed it, I'm not sure that it was anything particularly great for me. I think I'm gonna give it a 3.5 stars. So I enjoyed it more than Voyage of the Damned, so it's not the lowest in the ranking, but I didn't love it. I didn't think it was the best book I've ever read, and I'm not sure that I would have nominated it for the most popular book, but we will see, I guess, whether it has made the top 10. I don't really have much more to say about it than that. It just didn't feel like a particularly standout book to me, which is unfortunate because I feel like it will be for quite a lot of people. It does seem to have really good reviews, but it just wasn't anything stand out to me. I don't think it was really my sort of fantasy, if that makes sense. Or even my sort of historical fantasy. When you compare it to Song to Drown Rivers, for example, which I know is not really a fantasy book, but there is a strong historical element to it, and I enjoyed that more. And even The Warm Hands of Ghosts, not my favourite Catherine Arden book, but a historical fantasy, and I did enjoy that more than The Foxwife. So who knows if it will have made the top 10. So let's predict what I think is going to be in the top 10 before we have a look. In terms of what I've read, I do think that the 5 books that I'd read prior to starting this challenge will have made the top 10. So that's The Familiar, Somewhere Beyond the Sea, The Lost Story, The Warm Hands of Ghosts, and Emily Wilde's Map of the Otherlands. I do think that they will have made the top 10. And then in terms of else of what I've read, I think The Tainted Cup will make the top 10. A Sorceress Comes to Call better make the top 10 because I love that book. And I do think that a couple of the ones I haven't read, I think The Book of Doors will make the top 10, which I haven't read, and the Deborah Harkness book, but I don't know what else. But who knows, maybe all of the books that I've read be in the top 10 and then my reading challenge will be done. So let me get Goodreads up and get this recording and we'll find out what's in the top 10. This is scary, guys. It's time to find out the top 10. I'm scared. I am scared. Okay, fantasy, where are you? Oh, okay, so just looking at the little teaser, I guess you call it, Emily Wilde has made it through, and The Lost Story, and the Blackbird Oracle, so I'm gonna have to read the Blackbird Oracle. Oh, okay. Oh no. Oh no. Oh guys, this is not great. In the top 10 we have got that I've read. We've got The Familiar, The Foxwife, The Tainted Cup, Emily Wilde's Map of the Otherlands, The Lost Story, and Somewhere Beyond the Sea. So I've read 6 out of the top 10. Oh no. So a lot of the books that I read in this challenge were not in the top 10. I did read before I found that the top 10, I read The Foxwife and The Tainted Cup. So, you know, at least I've read those. I'm not sure I would have voted for The Foxwife to be in the top 10, but anyway, so still to read, we've got The Book of Doors, Blackbird Oracle, 5 Broken Blades, and Empire of the Damned. So this is not great. It's not great for me. I do really want to read The Book of Doors, and I do really want to read 5 Broken Blades. I just have to buy The Book of Doors. I already own 5 Broken Blades, that's fine. The Blackbird Oracle, I did not want to be in the top 10 purely because I haven't read Time's Convert, which is the 4th book in the All Souls series. I have been told, however, that I can just read the Blackbird Oracle. My problem is that I don't want to buy the hardback because I own everything else in paperback, so I'm gonna have to see how much the Kindle version is and then whether it's just worth buying the hardback. So that's unfortunate. And then even more unfortunate for me is that Empire of the Damned made it through, which I really didn't want to read because I don't want to read Empire of the Vampire. I don't think I'll like it. It's grimdark fantasy, very heavy, very vampires and blood and all of that, and I just don't think it's going to be one that I would enjoy. And I don't want to have to read the first book just to read the sequel, which is in the top 10. So that's unfortunate. That is very unfortunate. I did not want those to go through. So my vote for the top 10 is going to be The Lost Story, because I think that should win. I'm really surprised actually that the T. Kingfisher book didn't go through. I really thought that would, because T. Kingfisher is kind of a better, well-known name now. So that's really unfortunate, but it's not what I necessarily would have gone for in the top 10. Oh, The Warm Hands of Ghosts didn't make it through. That's quite surprising because Catherine Arden is quite a big name. Interesting. Okay, well, what we're going to be reading for the top 10. I'm going to start off with reading 5 Broken Blades because that's the only one that I own. Then I'm going to have to buy the Blackbird Oracle and the Book of Doors. I don't really want to have to buy anything else, but we're going to have to buy them. So that's that. But I'm going to start off with reading 5 Broken Blades because I am quite intrigued by that one. So hopefully I'll like that. This is an interesting top 10. I'm really surprised that the T. Kingfisher book didn't make it through. I really thought that would. And I'm quite disappointed that it didn't because obviously I absolutely love that book. I mean, I just love T. Kingfisher, but I am really, really happy that The Lost Story still got through to the top 10 because that is my pick. I think that's the best one of the ones that I've read. Like, that just spoke to me. So interesting. Not what I was expecting necessarily to for the top 10. I'm really surprised that The Warm Hands of Ghosts didn't go through, and I'm actually really surprised that Empire of the Damned did, considering that Empire of the Vampire wasn't even nominated for an award in the year that came out. That is quite surprising to me. So what we're going to be doing, what the plan is, guys, is that I am going to read 5 Broken Blades now, then I'm going to buy the Blackbird Oracle and the Book of Doors, and I'm gonna leave Empire of the Damned. I don't think I'm gonna read that one because I'm not gonna have the time to read both Empire of the Vampire and Empire of the Damned, and I don't want to read them. So that's where we're at. I think if I've read 9 out of the 10, that's absolutely fine. And considering I have read a lot of the other nominees that were in the top 20, I think it's fine if I leave Empire of the Damned, to be honest with you. I'm sorry if you want to see my reaction to Empire of the Vampire and Empire of the Damned, but it's just not going to happen. I don't want to read them. So yeah, that is not gonna happen today. Yeah, I'm gonna start off with reading 5 Broken Blades, and we will see whether I still want that to be. I know that nothing's gonna beat out The Lost Story for me, I don't think. The only one that would have had a chance, I think, is Somewhere Beyond the Sea, because I loved House in the Cerulean Sea. And out of the ones I haven't read, I think The Book of Doors would maybe have a chance, because I do love the sound of that, but I don't think that anything is going to beat out The Lost Story for me, because I love The Lost Story so much with my whole heart. So that is my vote for the winner. So let's go and read 5 Broken Blades. Hello my friends. Okay, so I finished 5 Broken Blades a few days ago now, and I gave it, did I even give it like 3 stars? It's at the bottom of my ranking. I do not understand the hype for this book, guys, and honestly I've been putting off updating this video because I didn't really know how to talk about my feelings for 5 Broken Blades. Let's talk about what it's about first of all. So 5 Broken Blades follows, strangely, 6 perspectives. So you've got 6 people who are all basically tasked with assassinating this king or emperor, I can't remember which one he is. They all have their own reasons for doing it. One of them is trying to get his rightful place on the throne, one of them is trying to save her sister, one of them is trying to save someone who took the rap for something that they did from execution. They all have their own reasons for taking part in this assassination attempt, and they are all travelling from different places in this world towards this one city. They kind of end up meeting along the way, joining up, and then eventually all 6 of them are together. It's adult, and you can tell it's adult, I guess, because they all want to bone each other within like the first 50 pages. It's like instant, and it felt like it was a YA book trying to pretend to be an adult book. I don't quite know how to explain it. The writing felt a bit immature. It reminded me of Voyage of the Damned in terms of the writing style in that sense, because it felt like a YA book masquerading as an adult book. And obviously I love YA, I love adult books, but there's a clear distinction between them. And yeah, I just didn't like it. First of all, why is it called 5 Broken Blades when there's 6 of them? I don't understand this. And in loads of the reviews I've read, it's all like, oh, there's 5 of these liars and they're travelling, and no, there's 6. There are 6 liars. There's 6 assassins. There's 6 people, whatever. Like, I do not understand where the 5 is coming from. It actually hurt my head. I was trying to think about how there would be 5 the whole time. After I read it, I was like, okay, maybe one of these people doesn't count, like, but they were all like the same. I don't understand where the 5 is coming from. And if you do have the 5 instead of the 6, and you consider it in that way, then it's a spoiler for the end of the book. Like, in terms of what this 6th person is and what they become and stuff, like, then it's a spoiler. So I don't understand where the 5 is coming from. So that really irked me, if you couldn't tell. And in terms of everything else, I was just like, where's the tension, you know? Where is the tension? Why are they all just trying to jump each other within like 50 pages? It's very like insta love, insta attraction, whatever. Like, there's no tension, there's no build up, there's no enemies to lovers or anything like that. Like, there's just nothing, it's just instant. So there's that. And I did like, a couple of the perspectives stood out to me. I really liked Royo's perspective, who is the guy who is trying to sort of save someone from being executed in his place. And I did also like, I don't know what her name was, but the one who's trying to save her sister. I really like those two perspectives, but the other ones just kind of felt a little bit indistinguishable to me, particularly, what are their names, Mikhail and Yoon. They felt very, very similar, like all the time, and the two of them were together all the time as well. And the only way that I could ever distinguish between who was if they referred to the other person in third person. It wasn't great. I don't really understand why this one made it to the top 10 in comparison to Sorceress Comes to Call. Who's voting for this? I don't understand who would vote for this book over A Sorceress Comes to Call. I understand maybe not a lot of people would have read A Sorceress Comes to Call perhaps, but then you are faced with all of the other contenders that you could have voted for instead of this book. So yeah, I don't think this should have been in the top 10 personally, compared to, you know, in my top 3, A Sorceress Comes to Call, or even The Warm Hands of Ghosts. I didn't particularly love that book, but I still think that deserved to be in the top 10 way more than Five Broken Blades did. However, the ending of Five Broken Blades did intrigue me enough to think that I do want to read the sequel, so I'm going to be torturing myself with that at some point in the future. Well, we'll see if I care enough by the time that comes out, but yeah, I did like the ending and that was quite intriguing, but the rest of it, no. So anyway, that came at the bottom of my ranking, I believe, and I don't think it should have been in the top 10. My first, Voyage of the Damned wasn't great. I wouldn't have called it a failure because I did enjoy some of my time reading it. This one, no, should not have been top 10. Don't even think it should have been nominated actually, but anyway. So I have moved on to reading the Deborah Harkness books. So I've decided, I know that I was told that you could read the Blackbird Oracle without having read Times Convert, but I've decided to read Times Convert anyway. So I have nearly finished Times Convert. I've got about just over 100 pages left, so I'm hoping to finish this one today and then move on to the Blackbird Oracle. Now, the winner of the Goodreads Awards are being announced tomorrow. Today is the 4th of December. The winners are being announced tomorrow, the 5th of December at like 8 AM, I believe, or something like that. So I'm gonna obviously not look at the winners until I have read the Blackbird Oracle, and then I did also order the Book of Doors. I was hoping it would arrive sooner so that I could read it, go from Times Convert to the Book of Doors to the Blackbird Oracle, just to kind of mix things up, but it hasn't arrived yet, so that is really unfortunate. So I'm going to finish Times Convert, then go on to the Blackbird Oracle, and then read the Book of Doors. Now I do have this weekend off of work, a rare weekend off of work in December, so I'm going to make the most of it and try and read as much as I can, which means finishing Times Convert today, trying to read as much of the Blackbird Oracle as I can tomorrow and Friday, and then reading the entirety of the Book of Doors, probably Saturday. I don't know how big the Book of Doors is, I don't know how fast-paced it is, I've never read a Gareth Brown book, so I don't know what I think of the writing style or anything, but I do really want to read that one because I've heard such good things, and I do think the synopsis sounds like it will be something that I really, really like. So that is the plan. I'm going to be reading the Book of Doors, and I won't be reading the J. Kristoff books, because I will get spoiled for the winner, I believe, if I leave it any longer past Saturday. So that's the plan. I did have a day off yesterday and I was hoping to finish Times Convert yesterday, but we were putting up our tree, so I didn't get a lot of reading done yesterday. We were actually putting up so many Christmas decorations and it took all day, so that was yesterday. But I am going to be hopefully finishing Times Convert today and then move on to the Blackbird Oracle. So obviously Times Convert won't be included in my ranking for this video, but it is one that I felt like I needed to read in order to read the Blackbird Oracle, because I knew I was going to read Times Convert at some point anyway. So I was like, well, I might as well just read it before I read the Blackbird Oracle, because I am a completionist. I don't like to skip installments and series if I know that there is an installment series. If I read like a companion book and I don't realise it's the second in a series or whatever, then that's a bit different, but if I do know that it's part of a series and I haven't read the one before it, then I get a bit like, So anyway, I'm going to be finishing Times Convert today, then move on to the Blackbird Oracle, and I will catch up with you once I have finished that one. Hi friends! Okay, so I have, thank God, finished the Blackbird Oracle by Deborah Harkness. Now, this I didn't really enjoy. So I think I've given this like 3.5 stars. I haven't written my review yet, so I'm not entirely sure. I've really struggled with this one. So I read Time's Convert, which is the 4th book in the series, and then I went straight into the Blackbird Oracle, and I did like Time's Convert. I didn't like it, I think, as much as I liked the original trilogy, and then this one I liked even less, because I don't know if it was just because I knew I was reading it for this challenge and I was feeling a bit rushed. Almost, I was like, oh god, I'm going way past when the winners are being announced. I still have one more book to read, but this felt just so slow and like such a slog, and I was just like, I just really wasn't reaching to pick it up, and that's such a shame because I really enjoyed the first 3 books in the series, in the Discover Witches series. I really liked them. I liked the slower pace of those ones, which is why I think maybe it wasn't just because of the challenge with this one. It's a bit hard to know, obviously, because I was reading it for a challenge, but I was just really struggling with this. It was just taking me ages to get through, and I just was really not taken with the plot. And obviously it's a bit hard to describe the plot for this one because it's the 5th book in a series, but this series has witches and vampires and demons, and even though it's slower paced, there is quite a bit of action, and I really like the research that has clearly been done into all of them. They feel very well researched, especially the historical elements, but I just wasn't enjoying this one, and it's such a shame. And I feel like in this one as well, the characters were really annoying me. I only really liked Diana's children in this one, but Diana and Matthew were both really annoying me in this one. Matthew, because he just felt so... he was just giving me the ick. Like, he was so possessive and so... like, everyone had to, like, go to his emotions and stuff. And then Diana would just... some of her inner thoughts, I was just like, no one's thinking that, babes. So I was struggling with this one. I feel like this is towards the lower end of my ranking. I'm not sure where I'll put it yet, but I'll pop it. Not the best. So it is now the 9th of December. The winners have obviously been announced. I have been steadfastly avoiding spoilers as much as I possibly can. I've managed to avoid the spoiler of who the winner is so far. I've only seen one spoiler for the Goodreads Awards, and that is who won the YA fiction, but I don't know who won the fantasy category yet, so this is very good. So I have got the Book of Doors to read. I'm about 100 pages into it at the minute, and I am enjoying it, and I feel like it's going to be fairly easy to read. I'm hoping to possibly get it banged out tomorrow, and then I'll be able to film my reaction to the winner, finally. And next year, when I do this video again, as I'm sure I will do, I will learn my lesson, and if a book is the second in a series or whatever, and I haven't read the book that comes before it, not to read, because it takes up too much time, especially if they're slow paced. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But this has been a very short clip because I just don't really have that much to talk to you about with the Blackbird Oracle, because it's hard because it's the 5th book in a series, and if you haven't read the 1st book, I obviously don't want to spoil anything that happens in the 5th book. So I will catch up with you when I've read the Book of Doors, and we will find out the winner together, although I'm sure you already know at that point. Hi friends, so I have finally finished my Goodreads reading challenge. I have finished the Book of Doors, and I really enjoyed this. I feel like it's a 4-star read. Hasn't quite made it to that of a 5-star, but I had such a good time, and I was really nervous about reading this one because I'd seen a couple of people not enjoying it that much, seen someone DNF it, and I was a bit anxious about reading it. But I've had such a good time reading this. Maybe I'm just a simple, easily pleased gal, but I had a good time. I obviously did not do what my plan was, which was to read this in an entire day last Saturday. Today is Wednesday and I've just finished it, but somehow I have still managed to avoid all spoilers for the Goodreads Awards, for what won the fantasy category. So I'll review this and then we will find out the winner together, even though you obviously already know. So the Book of Doors, it's following a girl called Cassie, is our main character, and at the start of the book when you meet her, she's working in a bookstore. She lives with her roommate Izzy, who's her best friend, and one night when she's working at the bookstore, a regular customer, Mr. Webber, comes in, and they have like this little discussion. He tells her a story he's told her 100 times before, because he's an old man, she kind of thinks he's quite forgetful. They discuss books that they have both enjoyed, and it's snowing outside, so she goes to look out the window, distracted by the snow, and when she turns back, Mr. Webber is dead. It looks like he's just had a heart attack, pretty simple, but she realises that there is a book on the table that was not there before, and it is the Book of Doors, and he's written her a little message inside which says that he's left this book for her, and she takes it, kind of thinks of it as a memento of a nice customer and stuff. They've really got to know each other over the years, and she goes back home. When she gets back home, she's reminiscing about a holiday that she once took when she was travelling all around the world, and she opens her apartment door to go into the hallway, and she steps out into Venice, I think it was, somewhere in Italy, and she is completely baffled by this. She shows her roommate, they kind of experiment a little bit with it, and then we have some other perspectives coming in. So we have the perspective of Drummond Fox, who is a man who also knows all about special books. He actually owns the Fox Library, which is a collection of special books. We also have the perspective of a very mysterious figure called the Woman, who we very quickly realise is a very, very dangerous person. And you also have slight little perspectives from that of a Japanese man called Azaki, who is travelling with his bodyguard Lund, and you also have the perspective of this horrible man called Hugo Barbary, who is hunting Drummond Fox. So you have all of these different perspectives, and each of these people have different special books. So Azaki, for example, has the Book of Illusion. The Woman has a few different books that she probably should not have, and all of these people, they all want the Book of Doors. Drummond wants to destroy it so that other people don't get it and use it for the wrong reasons, because, as he explains to Cassie once they start running into each other, because he has the Book of Luck and it's lucky for them to run into each other, that in the Book of Doors, the dedication is any door is every door. And Cassie kind of thinks this to mean that she can go to anywhere in the world, but Drummond makes her realise that she can go to any door in any time. So with the Book of Doors, you can time travel, and what starts unravelling is a really kind of intense plot. There is a lot going on, there's so many different threads and stuff, but what I really liked was by the end of the book you kind of see how they all connect and how everything kind of ends up running into each other and stuff, and it was really, really fascinating. I thought how it was done. A bit mind-boggling at times, of course, as time travel is, but I really enjoyed the take on time travel in this book. I thought it was really interesting, and I really enjoyed the kind of brutality behind it. I mean, that sounds a bit strange, but there's a lot of plot twists in this that are just like, wait, did actually that just happen? There was particularly one page where I sort of read it, went past it, and then realised what I'd read, and then had to go back and read it 5 times to be like, oh, that just happened. So I quite enjoyed that. I love it when a book really takes me by surprise, and I really wasn't expecting that to happen at all. So it was a very sweet book. I loved the friendships in here, particularly between Cassie and Izzy. You know, Cassie spends so much of her time in this character growth and all of that, but all the time she's got this motivation of her love for her best friend, and I thought that was really, really sweet. And at the same time you have this contrasting awfulness of Hugo Barbary and the Woman and stuff, and it's very interesting how it was done. And I can see why it wouldn't be for some people, definitely, but I had a great time. I really, really enjoyed it. So I thought this was deservedly a nominee. Wouldn't have voted for it to be the best book, probably, but I think it did deserve to be in the top 10 as well. I can see why it got to the top 10, and I just seem to love any story that has to do with doors for some reason. In November I read The 10,000 Doors of January by Alex E. Harrow and absolutely loved it, gave that 5 stars, and I really enjoyed this book about doors, so I'm enjoying books about doors for some reason. But yeah, I had a good time with this one, way more than I was expecting to after seeing some of the kind of people DNFing it and stuff, so I had a good time. So I believe it is time to find out the winner of the Goodreads Choice Awards fantasy category. So I will get the screen recording started and we will see. I'm nervous. I am really, really nervous actually. My prediction. So my vote obviously was for The Lost Story by Meg Sheffer. I absolutely love that book. Still, I think that A Sorceress Comes to Call came very, very close to beating that out for me, but nothing has beaten that out for me. So The Lost Story is definitely my winner. My prediction for the winner, I don't believe actually that The Familiar will have won. When I first saw the nominees, I really did think The Familiar would win, but I don't think that The Familiar is a beloved enough book by Leigh Bardugo to win it. I'm not sure her name is enough, and I think that The Tainted Cup is going to win it because I don't think I've seen anybody read it who hasn't enjoyed it, and it's got a lot of reviews, so I think it's going to be that. I hope it's that. I hope it's not Five Broken Blades. So we will see. That's my prediction. We have my vote and my prediction, and I wouldn't be mad if The Tainted Cup did win, even though The Lost Story is my vote, because I did give The Tainted Cup 5 stars. So we will see. We will see. I'm nervous. I'm very, very nervous. So I'm scared to click on it. Okay, let's click on it. Let's see what the winner is going to be. Okay, I can see the fiction. Okay, so Emily Henry won the romance. I'm very glad about that. So I've got to go down for the fantasy. Oh, Somewhere Beyond the Sea. I wasn't expecting that to win. I didn't think that that had been voted for or loved as much as... Okay, I didn't think that that had been loved as much as House in the Cerulean Sea. House in the Cerulean Sea didn't win the year that it was nominated anyway, so I wasn't expecting Somewhere Beyond the Sea to win. I really thought it was going to be The Tainted Cup, but I suppose a lot more people would know TJ Klune's name. I mean, if I hadn't been doing this challenge and hadn't read up on what my predictions were for the nominees and all of that, I wouldn't have read The Tainted Cup, I don't think. I wouldn't have thought it was for me. So I can see why Somewhere Beyond the Sea has been voted for. So let's see how many votes that actually got, because I imagine it was a lot. 69,000 votes. That's crazy. Wow, that's a lot. Okay, so The Familiar came in a very, very close second. That's really interesting. I really thought that The Tainted Cup would be closer, but it's not even in the top 5. So anyway, so Somewhere Beyond the Sea did get more votes than it has ratings, which obviously it would... I think Goodreads should implement a thing where you can't vote for a book if you haven't read it, but anyway, they're never going to do that. So Somewhere Beyond the Sea won with 69,000, and The Familiar came so close with 68,000, and then it's not even really close to the third place, which is Emily Wilde's Map of the Other Lands, that has 50,000. The Book of Doors came fourth, which I think is deserved. Like, that is a good book. I can see 33,000 people voting for it. Empire of the Damned coming in 5th place, that surprises me, because Empire of the Vampire wasn't even nominated. As we've discussed, it wasn't even nominated in the year that it came out. So for Empire of the Damned, the sequel, to be in the top 5 of the fantasy category, that really surprises me. How is Five Broken Blades in 6th place above The Lost Story and The Tainted Cup? I don't know, but interesting. Very interesting. I'm quite sad that neither The Tainted Cup nor The Lost Story nor A Sorceress Comes to Call won. I did really like Somewhere Beyond the Sea. I think I did give it 5 stars. It just wasn't as good as House in the Cerulean Sea for me, and I'm just a bit surprised that it won, considering that, you know, House in the Cerulean Sea didn't win in the year it was nominated. But it's not a surprise. People are voting for the names that they recognise the most. I think that does tend to happen in the Goodreads Choice Awards. It's not a, you know, if you've read it kind of thing. It is a, if you recognise the name, it is a popularity contest. So I can't be too mad. But yeah, it's interesting. I've had a good time with my challenge for this. This is the first year that I've done this Goodreads challenge of trying to read as many books in the fantasy category as I could. And the fact that I've read nearly all of them, I think I've read... How many did I read in the end? I've read 14 out of the top 20, and that is way more than I've ever read before. I think most years I've only probably read between 5 to 6 of them, if that. So I'm really, really chuffed that I committed myself to this and stuck to it. And I really enjoyed most of the books I read for this challenge. Obviously, Five Broken Blades was not it for me, and I don't see why that's in the top 6 or whatever it is, but most of these books were good and I think deserved nominees. I am very excited to do this challenge again next year. There's so many really good fantasy books coming out next year, I feel, that I will be hopefully reading throughout the year, and hopefully won't have to read as many books in a very short space of time again like I did for this video. But I did have a good time doing it. I hope that next year I have read through all the ones that I'm going to read fast enough to be able to react to the winner on the day it's announced, because it was stressful avoiding spoilers and like not being able to watch like any Instagram stories on Bookstagram and stuff because I was like, oh god, what if someone posts who the winner is? Not being able to really log on to Goodreads at all. I've got like 6 books that I need to log on Goodreads now because I was just so scared to log on in case I saw the winner at all and wasn't able to film my reaction. So hopefully next year I will be more on it and be able to read quicker. But I had a good time. I hope that you have enjoyed this video. Let me know what was your vote for the fantasy category if you voted for any, and what do you think of the other winners as well. And I am glad that TJ Klune won the fantasy. It just wasn't my personal vote for it, if that makes sense. So anyway, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Like this video if you liked it and subscribe if you wanna, and I will see you in another video soon. Bye!